What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of What Words Are Worth. Man, this is a special show, of course, because I got my brother, my partner in rhyme on here as well. We did an album together called Champion Sounds. He goes by the name of Pearl Gates. He's a special artist because Pearl Gates can do anything. I mean, he could rap, he could sing, he could write for you, he could write songs. He's a great performer. He's just an overall talented artist that I sometimes feel you don't get his just due. So today we're gonna talk to Pearl Gates to make sure he get his just due. You check out all his projects like Diamond Mine, Live from the First. I mean, this guy could rhyme, man. I mean, I got a whole album with him, me and him together, Champion Sounds. Make sure y'all go check that out. Produced by Quincy Tones, of course. Welcome to the stage, Pearl Gates. What's happening, man?
What's up, brother? I'm happy to be here. This is exciting. It's been due time, so I'm glad we can get it going today, man.
Yeah, man. So I talked about all the stuff about you in your intro and everything like that. Um, man. Also, I didn't mention like Gates has done pretty much every aspect of the industry as far as like A&R, tour managing, everything. So that's also adds to his insight on a lot of perspective with these things we talk about. So well rounded in every area, man. So I wanted to start first, right, with the name, origin of the name, man. Where'd you get Pearl Gates from?
That's always been a bit of a mystery attached to it. Uh, Sometimes I say like it just kind of was God sent, no pun intended. But uh, it as I explored like my writing, the name kind of it came to me, and it took on sort of a deeper meaning. Like what Pearl Gates means to me is basically like, there's a difference between a certain level or caliber of rap artists, right? There's
Yeah,
the ordinary rap artist that does what he does, right? And then there's the God MC, what I refer to as the God MCs.
yeah,
The Kanes, the Rakims, the Nas's of the world, etc. And so I never wanted to jump the gun and say that I'm a God MC, but I wasn't an ordinary rapper, doing this. So what kind of separated the gods from the mortals was the pearly gates of heaven, right? So I just kind of embodied that as an artist as like the standard to what it means to be dope as a rap artist, and so that kind of just went from there.
so then you have this versatility that I love to talk about. I'll even go as far as to say when we was working on the EMC, Fly Thoughts and all of that, dudes was trying to come up with a hook, it got brought to you, you came back with like the perfect hook, unlike what we would have probably thought of, probably just a basic hip hop rhyming hook, but you came with this like melodic hook and the versatility. So you're able to write songs for people, for yourself. You're a rapper, you're a singer. So when did you get the confidence to know, all right, I can do each of these? What was like the bell that hit you like, yo, I could sing too, I could do this?
Yeah, well, it's funny because like the singing aspect was always a part of my life, being that my older sister is a recording artist and a singer as well, and my father was a singer back in the '80s. He had a merengue band, and so like that was always prevalent in my life. I always had some confidence there, just with my voice in that aspect. But as far as hip hop was concerned, it really took a hold of me in terms of a rap artist and a writer. And so I began to hone those skills at a very young age, say like around 11 years old. And it wasn't until later, uh, maybe, 19, 20 ish, where I began to find a way to bring those two avenues like to a crossroads where I can kind of
Yeah.
merge those talents and utilize them in one forum. And so I think the confidence was there for each individual skill set, but it was
Yeah.
just to kind of try to bring that together in terms of the makeup of the identity of Pearl Gates, the artist. And so I think it really hit actually full stride uh, during that Fly Thoughts moment where I just trusted myself to have the confidence to deliver something that was authentic in its hip hop feel, but yet
Yeah.
had different facets of it. Some a little bit of melody, a little bit of talking to you, and so as Pearl Gates, the singer, writer, rapper, I try to fuse those things like a nice dinner dish, kind of like you got your protein, you got your veggies, and you got your whatever extra side you want to throw in there. I try to fuse those elements into the perfect dish, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think like the hook once you did it, that actually helped us. Like that was probably the highest charting song we had. And I believe the hook is definitely why it's one of the biggest records, if not the biggest record as EMC we put out. So as far as like songwriting, rapping, and singing, which one do you prefer? Because I know you're able to you've been working on a just a singing album, and then you got rapping album, right? Like you work on both types. So which one do you prefer the most?
That's a good question. I think um, there's a part of me that favors the rapping because uh, I think the most important part of the whole picture to me is the writing, and I get to express the writing. I think a little more sophisticatedly when it comes to rap, right, and express my thoughts in that way. But also, there's another part of me that enjoys the singing aspect of it, just because there's there's a little bit of freedom that I can tap into, like to bring the spiritual part of me into the music, that I think that being melodic and free in that way allows me to do. But rap was like really my first love, so I always hark back to that. You know.
Do you feel like you want to do the singing because you feel it's part of the legacy of the family? You know, your sister, you got your dad. Let me get mine out now. Like, let me maintain kind of the legacy with the singing.
Yeah, that's funny. I think a part of uh, the legacy aspect definitely, when I was young, made me feel like, oh, is my voice, good enough to carry on that legacy, right? Because my I think my sister Angie K uh, is so talented in that regard, and my father was as well. That maybe there was, I don't know, I wouldn't say some level of pressure, but it definitely was footsteps to follow.
Yeah.
Whereas, as a rapper, I was charting my own path. So I think I did enjoy that part. But once I was able to identify that, okay, this is a part of me, being able to sing and bring that to the table. It's a major part of me because of the tradition. I wanted to honor that, and I learned how to do that while being myself. So
Right.
it does play a major part. But I flipped it from something like pressure inducing to rather like enjoyable, to be able to carry that on amongst the family.
So then when you're writing and creating, what are you doing nowadays? You still with the paper, pen, computer, phone, or you writing your head? Where we at with this?
When I started, it was definitely the notebook with the pen and the pad. You know what I mean? Just jotting down ideas. And I had a very intricate way of writing. I still do, even though today I use my phone. basically. I write in my Apple Notes or whatever.
Yeah,
But I do write in a way that's like run on style. So if somebody was trying to decipher or you know kind of jack the style of it, it's gonna be
yeah,
hard because it's gonna look like just a straight run on paragraph. So I try to to protect the craft in that way. But yeah, I did move into the digital age.
yeah. I've spoken to several people. So like Superstition, when he writes, he actually puts what sound of the beat on top of the word, so he knows when they come in case he comes back to the beat later. And then I've
That's
spoken
cool.
to Big Pooh, little brother. He writes still because he sees it as art, so he's actually giving it as a gift framed up to people. So it's just so
Oh
many
wow.
people that there's people that still writing. They use both, but for the most part, they're still finding this connection with the writing because they're saying that I think this is what I get from it and interpret it as the writing is part of the art aesthetics now that what you write could be hung up. Kind of like how we can print it out. If we print it out like the verse and we put it in a poster, or people tag our bars, they can make posters with it. But like they're saying the actual paper part of it has its value, maybe like an autograph. So I thought
Yeah,
that was I thought it was
yeah.
kind of interesting.
I could definitely see that perspective, and that's the reason why, even now, I have like all my notebooks, like my very first rhymes. I still own those things, because there is like some not only sentimental value, but I think artistic value, and I think it's a different medium. Like, I tend to write differently, like writing on a pad, versus writing digitally, even though I do enjoy that because it's a quicker way to get from A to B in terms of like jotting my thoughts down. But
Yeah.
that's a great perspective. I do see the value in that for sure.
I've even heard this too. The writing, the indentation of the writing could tell how happy or mad you were. So people look at it like that too. Like, yeah, it's some crazy stuff I heard. That's why I love doing this. Like, yo, I'm mad. So when I'm writing, it's gonna be the pen is gonna be harder indentations on there. So that in a way, if you have two versions of somebody that write lyrics, you could tell their mood from there. I just thought it was interesting on the fact that how hip hop is being archived now, that those writings have still some sense of value, even though I've gone more to the computer too, but understand it, like how you said you keep your books and everything, that those books are worth a lot more than we may think. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I
You
mean,
know, so
that's as intimate as it gets. Uh, it's your writing, it's your thoughts, like jotted down, and then manifested, hopefully into something magical on a record. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Another thing I used to do as well, which maybe I might go back to writing into a pad, but I used to write a lot in script. So I don't know if that held any sway in terms of the impact of the writing, but it
right.
definitely it felt like it flowed out of me a lot more writing in that way as opposed to like maybe writing in print that just take a millisecond longer to express that idea or thought. So um that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think like what you're saying about that too is you could write regular letters, but if you think about the essence of hip hop, it might be something just embedded in you on the fact of spray painting and graffiti. Because remember, the style was all based on how the letters look, and there was a connection to whoever spray painted or whatever the case may be, that style. So whatever way you write is your style. There's a deep connection with it. So just hearing when you said write it that way, I was like, well, that kind of goes back to just the essence of something we've seen. So maybe it's just while we're attached to the style that we write. So I wanted to ask you about, as far as when you're creating, do you prefer the chorus or the verse first?
Wow. I would say it really always tends to depend on the record. Sometimes I might hear a record and uh, just the chorus jumps out at me. Other times, I'm creating a record and I'm telling a story from start to finish, and so I might start with the verse, to kind of set off the concept, and then it'll take me to the hook. Um, but most of the time, I think that I've been fortunate to have a writing style that the hook, it just is very natural and it flies out, it jumps out most of the time. As opposed to the verses, I do like to give it a bit more thought uh, than emotion
Yeah,
in that sense. And so, yeah, I might craft it uh, a little different, maybe take a little longer, or it really depends. But yeah, I'd say it's typically what is speaking to me from a production standpoint that will dictate whether it's a verse first or chorus first.
yeah. I believe like you're one of the best that I know that comes up with hooks. So if I send you something, I know you're gonna do it. I know it's gonna be fire, but I also have that patience with you because sometimes it's dope that you'll be like, nah, I don't got it yet. I'm still thinking because somebody could just be like, send anything over, right? And just be like, yo, I did something, let me know, whatever the case. But for the most part, I think you're always spot on. So how do you know when you have like when a hook is fire? Like, oh, this is it. Because I've heard you contemplate.
Yeah, I think two things are very important in the recipe, and number one is like trying to find a way to make uh, the music sound timeless, right? Like something that kind of can transcend time. And I know that oftentimes that is subjective, but for me, I try to, like, there's a frequency that hits me when the creation is happening. I'm like, okay, this is something that transcends time as much as I possibly can. And then the other thing is the message. So I think I try to craft a message that speaks to my soul, and in turn, uh, that lets me know that I'm connecting on some level to other souls. And yeah, I don't move until those things are at least, if not established, have made their presence felt on the in the writing and on the record. So yeah, that's why I try not to move just for the sake of moving. I want to move the people, and I want to that when the listener is intaking what the creation, that they know that there was, if not time and effort put into it, at least quality in the design.
I got a text from believe it's I think it might be Brian that edits the book and edits the book for a lot of hip hop artists. But he texted me the other day to give a birthday shout out to his son because he loves the Glory record that we did. So, you
Nice.
know, yeah, and that Glory record, if y'all get a chance, check out Champion Sounds album. Gates is on the hook, and the hook is crazy. I didn't know what to expect, and then once you hear it, you'll hear that it's fire. So, what's your writing style? So for me, I like to give you my perspective on your writing style. So when we first toured, you had a lot of your music I got a chance to hear, mixtapes and everything like that. And that's why I started being able to hear the versatility. But what I heard also, which made me excited to do music with you, is I heard the gear shift. Like you can do just straight up, hey, this is what it is, and then you can shift gears and go to a complexity level that doesn't necessarily lose the listener. And it's also dope because I love to write and I love to rap, but it's dope hearing somebody that can wow you, and you hear the competition and them like, yo, they're trying to be the best too. So with your writing style, how would you define your writing style as far as if you had to compare it to your influences or just in general on your own?
Well, I think that my writing style definitely uh, is conscious first and foremost. It's something that I think I put a lot of time and energy into uh, crafting something that is creative, clever, thought provoking.
Yeah,
Um, and then behind that, growing up in the era that I did, it is just natural that I was competitive. So like if I'm in a room full of minds that are highly capable of killing a verse or a record, like it kind of ups my game in the sense
yeah,
that I want to not only leave the listener inspired but also my contemporaries. And so I
right.
think that plays a big part in my writing style. I was very influenced across the spectrum. So I had a lot of respect for Michael Jackson's writing, a lot of respect for Nas, right? Coming up, I think Rakim is one of the brilliant minds of hip hop that set a lot of wonderful things in motion. Um, the poeticism at times that even someone like Tupac displayed,
Mhm.
the double time in the writing and the actions that Big Pun displayed in his music. Cool G rap. There's so many influences that shaped me and that allowed me to also be myself at the same time in my delivery. So uh, yeah, I think my writing style has a bit of competition in it. A lot of thought provoking methods, and sometimes it lands in the way that I expect with listeners. Other times I'm even blown away by their perspective of what I wrote, and so I think that's ultimately what the art should seek to accomplish is just a, a universal expansion of perspective and view. So yeah, that's what I try to accomplish with my writing style.
So when you've been able to collaborate with, some of the artists you named, like Cool G Rap, you sang a hook on one of his projects, right? If I'm right, like that's
Right.
you sang the hook, and that I try to tell people is so crazy because G Rap is like my favorite artist, and I always tell people if I never met Gates, I probably never have a song with G Rap because he owed you the favor and you use that favor for him to rap on Champion Sounds, man. So I always go, man, I always tell that story like that, the irony of that. So then you have Sil, like a partner in rhyme as well, close friend of yours, and then you have Master Ace. So can you kind of set the distinctions between, rapping with or singing and rapping with guest verses and stuff like that? And then explain the projects you have with Sil, and then how you've done songs with Ace and like the story of me and all that stuff. Like, I mean, you do the songs and you appeared on the NPR Tiny Desk concert. So there's a lot you've done with people, man. So I wanted to break it up with each kind of.
Yeah, for sure. I think that in my journey as an artist, I pride myself in trying to be a vessel for something greater than myself through the music, and a lot of times being a vessel dictates the direction that the music goes. Sometimes I might listen to a record and be like, oh, I would sound great as a guest feature on a hook here, right? To help to convey the entire message that the person that I'm collaborating with is trying to accomplish. Other times I'm like, okay, I got something to say here, so I'm definitely gonna, take that angle, um, or I might do both and allow the artist that I'm collaborating with to, you know, to make that decision as to whether they want to use both, or they might want to ride with the hook on this one, or just the verse, you know. So I always try to bring the the entire experience on the record full circle, and so I'm a team player in that sense. Like sports kind of taught me a lot early on in my life about you know, playing your position, and you know, sharing, right? And so I try to share in the glory with others on the record, and you know, do my part to make that message clear, and you know, again, come through full circle.
So I know one of the things from watching you work, especially with like Sil and then Ace, and just in general, me and you have the album together. I think the main thing that I've realized from working with you and people that I've seen work with you is that I trust you. So like, you know, like when we did the Champion Sound album, it's pretty much, I would say, you executive produced it. You said this beat, this down. I ride with you because I trust you. I trust your ear with that. Did that build a lot of confidence going forward for you? Like having like people trust you that you may have you know, looked up to or just did songs? Because you could have did a G rap record and maybe it might have been turned out the way he wanted to, but the fact that it made it kind of maybe gave you another feather in your cap.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that uh, what what gives me the confidence is not only the times when someone like you or G Rap or Ace, or even Sil, uh, you know, actually likes what I've delivered on a record. It's also those times where you might have an opinion. You might say like, okay, why don't we try this instead, or we kind of change this up. Allowing myself to be vulnerable enough to you know, shed light on a record, but if it's not going in the direction that it needs to in any particular, whether it be one word or you know, just a line or something, like the fact that I can set my ego aside and get to the goal together. I think
Yeah.
that that's what has given me a lot of confidence to continue to build, because I'm never afraid to go back in the booth and make some changes. But lucky for me, because I'm open enough to receive you know, critique on those levels. It just allows it most of the time to work early on, as opposed to, you know, spend a lot of time trying to get it right.
So then what about, do you prefer writing in the studio or at home? So, you know, popping up at the studio right on spot, or yeah, I'm gonna bring it in.
I think early on, uh, I loved writing at home. Like early in my writing career, I enjoyed the kind of, you know, alone time with my thoughts and ideas, and then bringing that into the studio. Um, Nowadays, I've streamlined the process where I might write in front of the microphone, you know, in the studio while I'm recording, or uh, you know, I'm writing it on the spot and then recording. But I do enjoy, you know, kind of streamlining it as much as possible, getting it from my mind to the
Yeah.
pen to the recording as quickly as possible.
And then what about, do you like to write to the beat, or you have like prepared like rhymes already or ideas and you come in the studio like I got this verse for that. Which way you prepare or prefer?
You know, one of the I think one of the underrated aspects of my artistry is like the pocket that I live in, where I'm able to land in a good pocket with the production. And so I think sometimes I'll write a verse, maybe to another beat, maybe, you know, to myself, and I might hear a production one day that is like, oh, this verse is perfect. I could jump into my mental Rolodex and be able to match things in that way.
Yeah.
Or what typically happens is I hear the beat, and the music comes to me in that way. So once I hear it, I know, okay, there's a there's something coming from the universal consciousness that's channeling its way to me, and this is the message that needs to be said for this particular record. So it can go either way, but most of the time I'm trying to marry the beat with the music and the creativity that I bring, and so yeah, it kind of we kind of me and the beat have a conversation, so to speak.
I find it like wild because like I agree with that same method. And then what's so crazy is we'll be in a situation in which some random beat come on and you got to rhyme to it. So you still, you know what I'm saying? Like you don't really get to choose, so you got to go, but you still kind of go in your mind like this fits. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't get to write it right there, but you be like, I got something for that, or you might just have
and
what you have.
and I mean, if you're yeah, absolutely, and if you're writing often, you know, you're gonna have an arsenal of things that are gonna, you know, match different vibes and different sounds, and so it's like it's staying ready, staying busy, right? Like we always say.
Right. So how long does it take typically for you to write a verse, song? What's that like for you?
Man, it it depends. I could write a hook in 5 minutes. I could write
Okay.
a verse take me a few hours. Uh, so it can range. It can range. Again, it depends on uh the production. It depends on what I'm attempting to channel. If it's something with depth, if it's something fun, um, it might streamline right out, or it might take some time to like wrap my mind around the message that my vessel received and how to properly disseminate that on a record. So yeah, it can definitely range, but sometimes it's long, sometimes it's quick.
Do you find it more difficult now, like with having a family, having family sometimes that verse might take 2 hours, it might take a week. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? What's that balance like with time and getting something completed? Because you don't have that luxury probably the way you once did, right? So like now it's about scheduling, like I do it tomorrow. Like, how's that working with the writing as well? Like scheduling like life around writing a verse or writing a song.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, priorities shift, right? And you got to be more efficient with your time and energy and effort when you do, sit down and write or create a record. I think for me, I've been lucky to have built on over the years is the ability to hear a beat, for example, and immediately have like that message come to me. So
Okay.
sometimes like I won't even listen to the beat. Like I'm like my mind is like working and processing the idea even before I hear the record for days and maybe even weeks sometimes, and then I hear the beat and it's go time. So you're right. To harken on your point, it's really about scheduling, getting that timing right. Like once I decide, okay, I'm gonna go in for the next hour and a half, 2 hours. Like my body, mind, and soul is like knows when it's go time, and so that
Yeah.
that helps me kind of deliver when I get the opportunity to sit down instead of uh like hearing the beat for a few days and then like having choppy thoughts and not really being fully present. Understanding that like when to be present, uh where, right, like in whether it be my personal life or the music, just kind of being the Phil Jackson of that, like the head coach, and saying, okay, it's time to go, or it's time
Right.
to rest, right? I think that's what helps to make the creation a bit more efficient nowadays.
So then what do you feel about when you delivering a verse? Punching or straight through? What's your method? Some
Yeah.
people, you got some people that's hard on these questions here, man. They be like, nah, if I ain't saying it straight through, if I ain't, but I'll punch in. Where you at with this?
Yeah. Um, Historically, I've been a straight through person. I've been the type of person that's like, yo, let's get it right that one time, especially with the raps, right? Because you like in my mind, I want to be able to deliver it like I would on a stage.
Okay.
Uh, Nowadays, because I've grown and become more particular from start to finish, like what's important to me is that every word and every line hits. So you might not get that on a straight through. And if you do it well enough, you can punch and sound natural.
Yeah.
So I think that whatever gets the job done for me nowadays is more
Yeah.
important than, I cast that ego aside again and say, all right, like this particular verse or hook or song, it's that straight through is not working right now. So I gotta
Yeah.
adjust the approach. And other times it's like, as soon as I walk in, boom, it's just like magic. So yeah, I try to let the universe, so to speak, kind of help to dictate the direction of whether it's going to be straight through today or if it's going to be a punch-in scenario.
So writing songs with you, that's so dope because me and you enjoy storytelling. So that's one of the claims to my fame is the storytelling, and then to be able to partner with somebody like you on an album, and that's one of your best attributes as a artist. Um, how did you kind of know, because you've been through seeing different eras of artists. I know you're a Nas fan. When did you kind of like establish within yourself, I'm not just gonna brag about me, and talk about me, but it's important that I get these stories out that relate. So when did you kind of understand the value of storytelling?
Yeah, I think at some point in my life, I realized that uh, a major part of my path and calling is like simply put, like to help others on this journey of
Mm,
life, right? And so through the storytelling, which I got to give a big shout out to Nas, artists like Wu Tang, um, even Biggie in some ways, right? They opened my mind at a young age to kind of vividly see scenarios through their work and through their writings. And so it was something that excited me very early on. And so I wanted to tell a story as well. Um, and as I grew as a writer and an artist, I realized that uh, the stories that we're telling, it's kind of like art on the wall, right? It's we
yeah.
might both be standing there and see two completely different things, in what we're staring at. And so I try to bring the storytelling as much as possible into my works in a way that sometimes it's my story, but really it's yours. It's the listener's story. And again, it just goes back to being vulnerable enough to shed light on those parts of me that oftentimes I might feel like I'm alone in, but really I'm not. And the point of creating that message is to reach others and for others to expand their consciousness as well. So yeah, the storytelling is a big part of my writing. It's a big part of my experience as a listener as well. I wanted to take me on a journey, and so I've always wanted to, hopefully try to do the same for others through my work.
So through your work, explain how you did the Diamond Mine project, then Live from the First. Like, what's the jump from from that project to that project? Because I know you like to do the storytelling. So can you explain kind of like the difference when people hear that the Diamond Mine joint, then they hear Live from the First? Because I know Live from the First has that storytelling aspect, like really like. Um, can you explain what made you do that with the projects? Like what you were trying to prove with each project?
Yeah, Diamond Mind was something that was very raw in the sense that, you know, diamonds are kind of excavated from the earth, right? So like the diamond mind is something like kind of a diamond in the rough or in the dirt, inside of this physical body, right? But in a different dimension, see the mind playing out. And I was actually very inspired by uh, an art exhibit that I went to years ago, and actually Power was there. Shout out to Power. But I saw this artwork of kind of a child in the Middle East, and in their like in their mind or mental space area in the imagery, you can see all these different scenarios playing out, that you know, like conveyed a lot of hurt and pain and just like personal experience of that
Yeah.
person based on where they were situated at and in their life. And it kind of reminded me of myself and the environment that I was brought up in. um and so like there was so many thoughts that over the years were kind of just living in that rough environment, right? That I thought were special ideas or things that needed to be expressed. And so Diamond Mine was just like an encapsulation of that. Of like a lot of times, you know, when we grow up, it's hard to be confident in the craft, like outwardly, right? You might have people that try to shoot it down or don't understand it. Um, and so it's a tough task for us growing up where we grew up at to preserve you know those things that make us unique and that are
Yeah.
worth expressing. And so I think Diamond Mine was kind of a full body expression of just that aspect of myself. For Life on the First, um that was a lot more of a journey and storytelling, right? It kind of gave a panoramic view of like my life and the different paths that I was walking. But at the same time, there was a narrator. Shout out to Range, the messenger, who was kind of like basically telling that person in the story, which is me, like, okay, you got all these other things going on, but don't forget about the music. Like, focus on the positivity. And so it was the story took an arc from, you know, street and you know, the inner workings of like those type of activities into something more spiritual, a lot more enlightening, and just transitioning from darkness to light. And so that's
Right.
what Live from the First try to convey. And uh, I'd like to think it's there's a thread that connects those projects. Um, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but for me, it was a graduation, you know, in
Yeah.
terms of the story arc from like coming from the inside and then working on that inside to then mirror that out into the world and create a better environment, which is what I hope uh, all the listeners in my music can maybe see for themselves and in their own lives, and go undertake their own process of evolution.
So then, what's the atmosphere for creating for you? Is it daytime, nighttime, anytime you can? What's that like for you? Because I know, do you need people in the studio by yourself? What do you prefer?
Yeah, it can go either way. I've always grown up in an environment where there was a lot of people in the studio, so that's just pressure in and of itself, right? You gotta come
Yeah,
correct, right? Because the guys is like
yeah,
there listening, or girls, and they're like, "Oh, I don't like that. I like this," you know. So there is some inherent pressure that comes with that.
yeah,
I do like by myself as well, because then once I'm done kind of crafting the foundational aspects of it, I bring it to either someone I'm collaborating with or the world, and it's like, oh wow, like that's cool. So yeah, it really. depends on the record, on the vibe, whether there are features or not, or whether I'm featured or not, and um, you know, how the level of intimacy that the message or the story has in terms of my personal life. So I'd kind of take it one at a time, one record at a time.
And then like the beat picking process for you. So how do you know that that beat is for you, right? So like with Champion Sound, I love like you took the helm of it, and this was like, yo, you know, this joint here, I think this joint here, and I trust you with all that. So I have no problem. I think it's dope because I've I've been an artist that kind of you produce yourself a lot. And when you're independent, you do you choose a lot. You do everything. Sometimes you can, and then sometimes you need that coach. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't mind like you taking over and like like you said, Phil Jackson and Pat Riley and Spolstra in it. So how do you know like this is the joint? This joint right here is gonna move people. People gonna like this track. We should do this joint.
Yeah, I think when it comes to creating projects, for example, like full projects, I tend to look at it like a garden of sorts, and um, like every part of that garden needs to be watered, right? And is going to play a part in the bigger picture. So going to the beat picking process, uh, it just has to speak to my soul. Like I have to hear it, and it undeniable. It can't really fester in the mind. Like, is this good? Is this have the right bounce? Like, are people going to feel this? It has to, like, when I hear that beat, it moves me in a way that's like, okay, this is undeniable, and it's
Mhm.
pulling this part of me out to come and play, on this record. And so um again, trying to keep the message well rounded as well. Like we're making maybe 12 records or 15 records. We're like, okay, we gotta kind of touch on these topics, and this production right here is saying something in this sphere, or this aspect of storytelling, and we got to dive in this way on that, and so on and so forth, just to kind of accomplish the goal of trying to speak to as many souls as possible on this journey, and let people know that we're here. Like, you're not alone, and I'm sure you've had these thoughts. I have as well. So let's share and journey in the exploration of it. And so the beat is definitely foundational in accomplishing that goal.
So then once you got the song done, how do you know it's done? So you go back or you leave it. You're one take person, like this is it. I did it, it's done, or you're revising. Or what do you choose to do?
Yeah, definitely revise. And the way I do that is, uh, I think my favorite part of creating an album is kind of figuring out what record goes where. So I'll start to line up records and go through that journey as the listener, even if it's not complete, right? Just kind of saying, okay, I think these sounds and this journey is gonna go in this direction. So let me line these records up in this way, and then listen to them, and then I'll
Right.
say, okay, this record needs a little more of this, or this record is missing something to transition into the next record. And so I'll always go back, like, towards the, like, I would say third quarter of the process before entering the fourth quarter. Like, okay, we can tighten these things up, and then by the fourth quarter, I'm sonically doing that.
How about when you're writing the verse? Like, do you know like, this verse is done, but you might be like, I don't like how that landed. Let me go back and change this line. Do you mind revisiting a verse, or like you once it's done on the verses?
Oh, absolutely. I'll revisit because, like, I'm very particular again. Uh, as I've grown as an artist, like, every breath counts, every word counts, towards accomplishing the goal of fully conveying that message. So what I will do if I, let's say I spent a few hours on a record or something, like I'll put that record down for a day, maybe two, not even, kind of think about it and come back to it with fresh ears,
Right.
uh, again as a listener, and then say to myself, "Ooh, I could say actually this word instead of the word that I recorded. It probably will fit a lot better." And so, yeah, just try to become a marksman in that sense, like going back to it, because I try to be that sniper, man. I try to make sure that every every syllable, every word is properly fitting not only the message but the production and the overall vibe. So yeah, I'm never afraid to go back, even though as a writer we pride ourselves in, like, yeah, we got it the first time, right? We would love to say that, um, but for me, it's more about accomplishing the goal rather than my feelings about it.
Yeah, I think what also that like hearing you rhyme, and then like when you did chopped arugula, fruit smoothie, and Kama Sutra love, like hearing that type of complexity and the word bounce and the cadence, and not using just the typical. I may say some people like to just bail out and just like I'm just gonna rhyme the rhyme. Like you doing those complexities and putting things together. That's what I enjoy about rhyming with you on records and putting together the songs. But when we're putting together the songs, do you have creative blocks? How do you? Because what do you do to get out of a creative block?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't believe in creative blocks.
Right.
Like, I I thought that was a thing that existed at some point in time early on in my career. I'm like, oh, maybe I have writer's block, which is
Yeah.
why this I can't write this verse. Sometimes it's just like, yo, this beat ain't it for me, or this particular record is not resonating, and so I have to be honest about that. So the first step, I think, in the process is being honest about where you are in the creative process, and then going from there, right? So if, like, I don't got it today, and I'm not writing, and then I'm not writing. I'm not gonna, force an issue where in the past I have, and I
Yeah.
just haven't been satisfied with the outcome. Uh, Regardless of if somebody else might be like, "Oh, that's cool." I try to be honest with that part of myself. I'm like, okay, I'm not there right now. Maybe I need to do a little more living. Maybe I need to do a little bit more meditating before I put the pen down. So I really don't believe in creative block. I believe in kind of listening to my higher self, my inner self, and where it's at, and putting it in the best position to deliver when that time comes.
How do you balance that challenge with deadlines? Because you get a deadline versus your personal feeling. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying? That's the conflict. How do you balance that particular thing?
Yeah, I there there's a lot of madness, but there's a method to the madness, and I think that ultimately I kind of lean on the the spiritual aspect of myself. Like, uh, again, since I try to make music that transcends time, like, now, with that being said, it's like I have a different relationship with time, where, like, I might not understand how I'm going to get from here to the deadline,
Yeah.
but I'm going to trust my vessel, my spirit, that it's going to be God's timing that this record gets created, because it's not the deadline is there obviously to produce results, but it's not about me or the artist I'm working with. It's about the people. And so ultimately the people need that quality of work, I think, at the highest levels. And in order to do that, I have to trust my creative process. And I might have 2 weeks to a deadline to create a record, but, like, I'm not sweating for the first week and 5 days. And then a day, 2 days before that deadline, it hits me, and then it's go time. So I try
Yeah.
to uh expose myself to the recording or the writing process within the confines of that deadline, while also allowing myself to have the freedom to kind of say, okay, this is the moment, or not yet. Let me step back and let me come back and allow that moment to meet me at the apex.
Yeah, I know you're into sports. And you got me thinking, and I like asking these questions because the perspectives can change my perspective, and I'm always trying to figure out the answers too. Some of these questions, like, they're still up in the air. Sometimes I change them, whatever the case. But it makes me think about, like, sports. Like, we watch basketball, we like that. Or we sometimes just pacing ourselves down the court, and then we know when we need a three. You know,
Yeah. Sometimes you need a three. You might take a glimpse of the shot clock, but if you're like staring at that shot clock too long, you're not present and you're not seeing the play develop, So you gotta a part of you has to be mindful of like, okay, that's the shot clock, but I'm on the court. So you have to naturally, try to find that moment to be great within again the confines of that time limit, so to speak.
yeah. So showmanship, man. You're a performer. You perform very often. So, and then when we went on tour, you had mentioned like Wu Tang and all that being like influence, and then you would come out. I think you rhymed on Cream, and when you would rhyme on tour,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
you rhyme on Cream. So what's that like as far as like understanding? Okay, I can make the dope records, but the dope records won't really mean nothing without me being a showman. So how's your pride in being a showmanship? How do you feel about that as far as the importance of it?
Oh, it's very important. Hip hop is a community, and a community that I'm honored to be a part of, and so there are certain things that uh, you know are act as threads that connect all of us in the culture, and so sometimes it's important for me to honor those things that came before me that influenced me, and I might rhyme on a certain record on stage to kind of
Right.
bring familiarity for the people, but also something fresh, a unique perspective, a new perspective into that same dimension that at some point we all might have traveled down as a hip hop family. Um, but also understanding like the people that paved the way that came before me, the KRS ones, who has phenomenal showmanship even to this day. Uh, Big Daddy Kane, even coming all the way down to Lil Wayne or uh, you know Nas. Like there's just certain people that they'll have the showmanship on the stage, they'll have the showmanship in their writing. I try to have that showmanship in every angle of the process, so that people know that there's a lot of spirit behind what's going on that stage. It's not just hollow writing or a
Right.
shell of a creation. There's a person behind that. There's an energy behind that, and I try to encapsulate that and find the right timing to bring people energetically from here to there through the process of my performance.
So what's the way that you record at home? What's the studio setup that you use? Because I learned a lot when I used to record with you, and then when I used to come up to the heights, and you had your whole studio set up, you had compressors, you had a lot, that you learned in the studio. Now I don't know if you need as much or if you have that equipment still. How do you record today? What do you use?
Yeah, I feel like I used to have a lot more equipment, but obviously as technology expanded and
Right.
things became a lot easier from a technical standpoint to be able to record right with less. Um, I think today I definitely still use Logic. I came up early on Pro Tools, and there's still a place in my heart for Pro Tools just because the nostalgia of it in terms of my creative process. But I shifted at some point into Logic, and I have been using it ever since. And you know, I got my Neumann TLM 149 microphone. I have a blue preamp that is very dear to me, and I think just those few things, weapons, I utilize mainly at my disposal to create the works that I do, and always got to keep a nice pair of speakers for playback. So I got some Dynaudio BM15As, which are, you know, very clear in its delivery of frequency from high end to low end. And so I think those few things are like my main arsenal of choice when it comes to creating these records.
So, what would be three three pieces of your work or songs or something that you, if somebody just getting up on Pearl Gates, what would you suggest they go check out? Song, verse, three pieces of your work.
Yeah, I think the first record on Diamond Mine, which is the title track, actually, I think that's something worth visiting. I'm proud of like what I was able to do lyrically on that record, and just the overall message of that record. I think it was ahead of its time, and it was kind of a precursor to the direction of where kind of music was going and where I stood there. So that's something that I always recommend. Another body of work that I fully recommend is Champion Sounds, just because, like you said, um, working with someone as great as you are with the pen, and allowing me to be myself around that greatness, and be able to, you know, executive produce in some ways, just be fully involved record to record. I think that although it's a collective effort with myself, you, and Quincy Tones, it has a lot of you know, who I am as an artist reflecting on that piece. So that's something that I highly recommend. And I would also say live from the first. There's a song called "Elevate" with Karina Pazian, who's a Grammy-nominated singer. She's an amazing talent, and she shared that space with me to kind of, you know, give some positive nuggets for the community, and again, uh, thought provoking aspects and perspectives to for the listener to kind of dive into. And I think that that's another great record. But I also add, as an honorable mention, play this too. The record I did with Sil, I think
Yeah.
that's a great record. It takes you on a journey as well, and yeah, I think those are at least three, four places where to start, where you can, you know, begin to dive into my process and my mind ultimately.
I'll throw in, check out Fly Thoughts, like the hook. That song is elevated from just his hook, takes it to a whole nother level as well. The video, check it out. Yo,
Oh yeah.
man, I appreciate you being here, brother. You know it, man. What's your social media so everybody could follow you and check out all your stuff?
Yeah, so my social media is it's Pearl Gates on Instagram, ITS Pearl Gates, Pearl Gates on Facebook. Yeah, that's really mainly where I'm at. I don't really mess with Twitter, but I do have Twitter. It'll be Pearl Gates as well. So yeah, just try to find me there, or you know, with some of my favorite collaborators, which is sometimes I might show up on your feed, Wordsworth. Sometimes I might show up with Ace and other great artists that I'm privileged to work with. So yeah, just be on the lookout, and there's more music on the way.
Pearl Gates is underrated. Make sure y'all go check him out, man. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. Thanks for coming on the show, man. And everybody, you know, like I always say, thanks for joining me on this journey. Make sure y'all Go down in the description links. I'll have all of Gates' contact stuff and all the music he's put out in the description links. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and everything. And like I always say, what are your words worth? Peace. That's it, man.